Have you ever known someone who decided to create some sort of positive change? Bang, it just happens for them. They seem to do it with ease, and you're left saying, how do they do that? Have you ever known other people who try to create a change and they just seem to spin their wheels and end up feeling frustrated? You know people like that? Over the next 60 minutes, what we're going to cover, you're going to pick up the 5 keys for creating change, not stress. Now, as we go through these, the way you'll get the best value out of this is if right now you sit back and think about some sort of a change that you'd like to create. Something that you'd like to accomplish in your life, and think about how these 5 keys apply to your specific goal. And if you're sitting there thinking, listen, Jeremy, my life's perfect. I don't need to change anything. Then think of someone you know and a change that they would like to create. And how these 5 keys would apply. Because when you get these 5 keys completely lined up and congruent with whatever change you'd like to make, that change will happen easily and more naturally. People will notice that you're just making consistent progress toward your goals. You know what? It's just so much more fun when you get to experience that sort of progress. Does that sound good? All right. The very first key to our creating change, not stress. It seems simple, but if you don't have this in place, before you even get off the ground, you will find a challenge with your goal. Now, raise your hand if your life has ever been positively impacted by a huge name in the personal development industry. A name like Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Brian Tracey, Jeremy Tracey. I remember when I first discovered personal development, I was living in a little town called Sept, Alberta, and I discovered a company called Learning Strategies. And the first course that I invested in was something called Ideal Mindset. And if you take this course, you learn all about goal setting and the theater of the mind and positive affirmations. Well, this was fantastic, but at the time I was working construction for a man named Norm. Norm was a fantastic guy, mountain of a man, like 6'3", 6'4", always had his hat kind of crooked off to one side, had a mustache, looked like you could brush a horse with it. And this guy had paws like a bear, just monstrous hands on him. Norm was a fantastic guy. But his crew, the dozen guys I worked with every day, you sat in our lunchroom, you might hear things like, so, how long were you in for? And then there's me with the fireworks of personal development flashing in my mind. A little voice in the back of my head says, Jeremy, don't ask. Let it go. I ignored that voice. Guys, have you ever heard of visualization using the theater of the mind? Who's got a goal? Finally, it's getting a little bit awkward, but finally the silence is broken by Big Ray. This gruff voice comes from the back corner. He's like, I got a goal. Tonight, I'm getting wasted. Ever been really excited about something and you get around the wrong people and you're deflated? That's where I was, and I kind of head back out to work. And it's not very long after break, and along comes Norm. Bear paw lands on my shoulder. I'll never forget what he said. He said, Jeremy, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. Do you know how to recognize the turkeys in your life? Yeah. Your first key for creating change, not stress, is looking at what is your environment. Do you have an environment that supports your goals, or do you have an environment that deflates you and holds you back? So there's 2 things we're going to focus on. I'll share examples of 2 things as we make our way through these 5 keys. One, kind of appropriate to today, is if someone had the goal of improving their speaking and communication skills. The other example that we'll use, just to give you a couple of examples to work with, is one that's just very easy for people to relate to because they've either worked on this or they know somebody who has, having a health and fitness type of goal. So if you have a health and fitness type of goal, does your environment support your goals? A couple of years ago, I had a running friend named Dan, and Dan was quite excited. He was running well, making good, healthy changes, but we got chatting one day, and Dan says, you know what, I'm finding it really, really challenging to eat well because every time I turn around, my wife fills the cupboards with chips and junk food. And he said, I talked to her about it, and she just says, well, you don't have to eat it. And And I'm not going to tell you Dan can't be successful in that environment, but I will say it's going to be a lot more challenging for him to be successful. Now, have you ever heard the SMART theory of goal setting? I remember, I think I was 15, 16 years old the first time I heard it. SMART, it's an acronym. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time frame oriented. I've got $1 for someone who can tell me the difference between attainable and realistic. Don't they mean the same thing? I've always wondered that. Until about 4 years ago, I went to a presentation in London by a fantastic business coach and speaker by the name of Lori Hawkins. Hawkinspired is the name of her coaching company. Absolutely great coach and speaker. And she shared a new acronym for SMART. Specific and measurable, realistic and time frame oriented were the same, but it was the A she had a new spin on. Agreed upon. If you want to create change in your life, are there people in your environment that need to agree with you? If it's your goal, men in the room, if it's your goal to keep a clean house, but your wife comes home and throws the shoes everywhere, isn't that how it usually goes? Not having that agreement and buy-in is going to make your environment more stressful, therefore a lot more challenging to accomplish your goals. So looking at environment. Now, what sort of an environment would be good for someone who wanted to work on their speaking and communication skills? Toastmasters. Toastmasters. Good answer. People in the front row are keeners. Absolutely. I went to a Toastmasters conference a number of years ago, and you know sometimes if you can just walk away with one gold nugget, it makes the whole weekend worthwhile. I remember my gold nugget from this particular conference came from a good friend of mine, Gregory C.N. Smith. Great guy. And his phrase that I walked away with was, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. You come to Toastmasters, we'll tolerate you, but we'll also celebrate you. And it's just an incredibly positive environment that will support your goals. So as we make our way through these logic levels and you're thinking about whatever your goal is, you may look at environment and go, you know what, I've got that under control. Don't worry, there's 4 more logic levels, 4 more keys that we're going to look at. So if the first one's in place, that's great, we can move on to the next one. But you can also use these 5 keys moving forward. Any goal, any change you want to create in the future, you can use this as a measuring stick and go through and go, yeah, I got that one, yeah, I got that one, oh, here's my missing link. Does that make sense? So let's say for whatever your goal is, you have your environment wrapped up. You can give that a big old check mark, you're good to go. That's when we move into our second key for creating change, not stress. Have you ever heard of the law of attraction? Like attracts like. What you think about, you bring about. The secret, all these things, you've heard of this. The second key for creating change, not stress. If you don't apply this, the law of attraction becomes utterly useless. Completely and totally useless. Your second key is the law of action. You can sit in the corner for months and meditate about the Lamborghini in your driveway, or you can go out and take action, and we'll see who accomplishes their goal first. I have nothing against the law of attraction. I only have a challenge with it if people don't want to also apply that law of action. So with the couple of examples with the law of action, I'm going to come back to my friend Dan because there's so many fantastic lessons to learn from him. So Dan and I are running partners. Actually, Dan and I were running partners. We broke up. There were 5 occasions that Dan and I were scheduled to run together. The first one we ran. The second one I get a text says, sorry, can't make it this morning. Okay. Third one, we ran together. Fourth one, I get a text, not feeling the best, we're not running today. Okay. 5th occasion, I'm in my carport, getting ready for my run. I get a text from Dan and he says, I was up a little late, sorry bud, you're on your own. I replied to Dan by saying, let me know when this becomes a priority for you. He didn't like that very much, and I think that's why we broke up. I didn't really care what he decided to do, but what I was encouraging to do was making sure that what he said was important to him, and the actions that he took were in alignment with each other. If what you say is important and the actions you take aren't in alignment, it creates this internal conflict. It just feels awful. But if you can get those 2 things in alignment, that's when you can start to make forward progress. I love the expression that actions express priorities. Not your words, it's your actions that express priorities. Interactive portion of this morning. If someone wanted to work on their speaking skills, what action should they take? Join Toastmasters. Gold star for Wilma. So Wilma, I have a question. Is there a non-Toastmaster here? Good stuff. Alan. Alan's a non-Toastmaster, so if Alan joins this morning, he signs up and joins Toastmasters, he'll be a better communicator? That's all he has to do, he just has to join?
No.
He has to work.
He has to what?
He has to work.
He has to work? He has to take action. Okay. Can you say more about that? What should he do if he wants to get results? If he wants to move toward his goal? Should he show up at meetings?
He should show up at meetings, he should get involved. He should get up and do table topics.
He should do table topics? Absolutely. So whatever his goal is, his action should match up with that. All right. I have a very personal question for you, Alan. Are you ready for it? Are you okay with this? Yeah. All right. Is basic personal hygiene fairly important to you? So, do you brush your teeth every day? What if you have a bad day at work? Would you still brush your teeth? You would. Okay? And if the dog made you mad and chewed up something, you'd still brush your teeth? Yeah. If you weren't feeling good, you'd still...
I get the dog.
Oh, good answer. It sounds to me like personal hygiene is such a high priority for you that brushing your teeth has become completely and totally non-negotiable. No matter what happens, you are brushing your teeth. Now, I'm not for a second suggesting that if you join Toastmasters, you have to come to every meeting and participate in every meeting no matter what happens in your life. I am suggesting that your level of drive, your goal, however high a priority you say your speaking and communication skills are, your level of commitment needs to line up with that. Does that make sense? So your actions express priorities. So far we've gone through 2 keys for creating change, not stress. What's the first one? Environment. An environment that supports your goals and helps lift you up, helps celebrate where you are, or one that detracts, and doing everything you can to set that environment up so it supports you. And the second one, actions express priorities. Excellent. Those first 2 keys are tangible. We can see them, we can touch them, we see them going on. The next ones we get into are completely intangible, but they're even more powerful. We're going to go right along with the theme of my running when I was talking about. When I was 35, it's hard to believe I'm past that, but when I was 35, I sat bolt up in bed on my birthday and said, I need a goal. I needed something. I was finding exercise. I wasn't getting to the gym and exercising as much as I like to. It was slipping on the priority list. I said, I need a goal. I need something to drive me forward. I think I'll run a marathon. To this point, I would run 5K once, twice a week. The most I had ever ran was 9K. That was because the loop was longer than I thought it was, and I had to get back home. So that was in June when I sat up, June 3rd. If you want to put that in your calendar and send me a card, that's great. In October, so 4.5 months later, I went and ran my first marathon. Not only was it my first ever marathon, it was my first ever organized race. Little side note, I don't recommend that. There came a point in the race that day when absolutely everything in my entire body hurt. Just when I thought nothing else, I'm thinking this is pretty good, I don't think anything else can hurt. That's when something else would hurt. 3 paramedics stopped me that day and said, "Sir, are you okay?" And I'd say, "Yes, I'm fine. Please get out of my way. I have something to do." It was approximately the 37-kilometer mark. And I'll tell you, when your pain threshold's getting maxed out, you get a little bit sensitive. Things kind of wear on you a little more. So I'm cruising along. You know, one of the great things about running a marathon, there's signs. People got signs on the side of the roads. You get one that says, "Worst parade ever." This other lady, she's standing there with a sign and she says, "Run like you stole something." Do you have any idea how tempting it is to steal that sign and keep running? But it's at 37 kilometers, and I'm like, man, please let this end. actually contemplating like just ending it, just taking a right turn and being done. And then I see these 3 little kids standing on the side of the road with a sign that says, "You inspire us." Now, I don't mean to sound sensitive, but there was a 35-year-old man standing in the middle of the street in Toronto, pretty close to tears. Because the thoughts of going home and telling my 3 sons, Dad didn't finish, was more painful than anything in my body ever could have been. That was the drive that pushed me across that finish line. Got it done. My wife, was, as always, was there to support me. She had to wait significantly longer than she thought. I believe it was 5 hours and 27 minutes and 48 seconds. Give or take. I finished up and I said, "Honey, that is the most awful, horrible, painful thing I have ever done to myself. I want to do it again." So I decided that the next year I would go back to Toronto and run the Scotiabank Waterfront Marathon again. So I go home, and obviously when I ran this first one, I didn't clearly know what I was getting myself into. I didn't respect the challenge, I didn't train for it properly, therefore it was awful. And I started looking, and I said, like, I need to know what I'm doing. So I started online and getting the, have you ever looked online for something like that? You have got a lot of garbage to sift through. I mean, the great thing about the internet is anybody can post on the internet. The horrible thing about the internet is anybody can post on the internet. So I'm sifting my way through all this and I don't want to do this. This is boring. I don't want to do this. What I recognized is that I didn't have the skill and the knowledge that I needed in order to accomplish this goal. At which point I had 2 choices. I could either acquire it, I could spend all my time online figuring it out, learning it for myself, or I could hire it. That was when I hired a chiropractor from Waterloo, Sean Delaney, who is a running coach, and I hired him to tell me how to torture myself to get ready for my next marathon. But if you're looking at your goal and you say, okay, my environment's pretty good, I'm taking action, I'm showing up into whatever this challenge is, but something's still not working right, you can sit back and ask yourself, do I have the skills and the knowledge necessary to accomplish this goal? If the answer is yes, good for you, but if the answer is no, you have 2 choices. You can either hire it, or you can acquire it. Does that make sense? There are people that look at their speaking skills and they don't want to put in as much work. They want to shorten their learning curve. That's when they come to me and they attend one of our speaking boot camps or they do one-on-one coaching. They've still got to acquire it, they've still got to do the work, but they shorten their learning curve. But you've got to go one way or the other. You need to either hire or acquire that skill that's going to help keep you moving forward. So far, we've talked about your environment, either supporting or holding you back from your goals. Your actions expressing priorities, and then the question, do you have the skills and the knowledge necessary to reach your goal? Before we go any further, I'm going to stop talking. I want you to take 60 seconds, talk to your neighbor. What has been your greatest pickup message so far, or idea? What's just one thing that you can apply from the first 3 keys that we've talked about so far? So talk to your neighbor if you feel comfortable. Share whatever your goal is and what's been, or your friend who needs to create a change. And what is the one little change that they made to help. So 60 seconds for that. Go.
So I like to go where you're celebrating, but tolerating oh, I do my fitness goals, but
Get a gold medal for individual breaststroke. Junior boys at Oxford. First one you did was talk about your That's what they have.
Okay, clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you care. I put a 60% affirmation there. That's pretty good. All right, who's brave and wants to act like a Toastmaster to speak in public and share what you, share yours or tell what your neighbors share, whatever feels right for you. All right, Jeff, let's hear it.
Well, you know, at the current moment, I am not a member of Toastmasters. I have been in the last few months. Motorcycle lessons. I know where to go. Counting that one? Counting that one? Okay. I caught on around there.
It's all good.
I left because I've been having a lot of problems physically and mentally through a negative environment. And it's brought me down quite a ways, unfortunately. Just talking to my buddy Wilma from Toastmasters, and what you just asked us to discuss in the last 60 seconds, and I said my favorite part of that, the present moment, was higher and acquire. Higher and acquire, rather. You know what? You already got me going back. So, worked on that, I enjoyed it, and there was challenges there that I thought, because of the way I've been going through stuff, that maybe I should just lay off at that and try to do it, but you've already got me going back, Jeremy. So, there we go.
What did we negotiate? How much?
Unicycle last year. I'm going to get right with that, so we can very good.
Those who can't do too much. Awesome. Thank you and welcome back. Just so we're clear, if you do stand up and share, you don't have to say that you're joining Toastmasters. Doesn't hurt, right? Doesn't hurt, but no pressure. So, all right, who's next? What have you picked up so far?
My name's Jimmy Conroy. I've been in Toastmasters 3 years last January. I've got from intoxicated with Toastmasters to addicted to Toastmasters, and last year I became a Toast monster. I wasn't getting enough out of my own club at a mere 2.5 hours a week, so I joined 4 other clubs. 2 of them were advanced clubs. Then I became an area governor, which brought me into a realm of 6 other clubs. So now I was a member of 10 clubs. That got me a little bit busy. I turned 65 last November. And I believe I'll be 66 this November if I make it. And I've decided to get out of the business that I've thought of doing. Since I've been a child, I've wanted to get into law. I never thought I was smart enough. When I went to prison, I found out that a lot of my fellow inmates were just as smart as I was, and they were lawyers.
How long were you for?
Well, when I met you, that was 4 years. And my point being that I'm an advocate for mental health because of things that are happening in my family. I'm an advocate also with marijuana as a substance, the only substance in the world that will cure cancer. 80 years ago, the laws were changed because of financial purposes. The greed of our society well outnumbered the cure for cancer. They became laws. I'm not saying anything about recreational use, but there are people dying. I got 3 phone calls last week of friends in my family and members who were dying of cancer. They were taking radiation and chemotherapy. What's happening now is I've got to get, first point, get out of the environment and somehow get out of the business that I can't sell. I don't have the time to run it myself, and I've got to replace myself. The second thing is, I forget what it was something to do with smoking too much marijuana. But my point is, Toastmasters is the vehicle that I'm going to use to do this. I've been in court several times in the last little while, and I won a lawsuit. I won a minor thing, but it was just a traffic light offense. And I've won 3 things. And in court, I wasn't trying to be a lawyer. I was trying to exercise all my Toastmaster skills, and for that reason, I won all 3 cases. I'm not a lawyer. I never went to law school. But with the ammunition I've got now, and the direction, just with those 3 points that we're talking about now, that my priority has to become action. And that's exactly what you said. That I've got to wrap up this business. If I've got to walk away from it, then the need for going ahead in my life far outnumbers the paltry sum that this business is going to cost me if I just simply give it away. I want to save people's lives. I want to change legislation. I want to make a mark in this world. And I do believe that we're all here for a reason, and we all have a purpose. And for that purpose, I might have to live 3,000 years.
So my takeaway from the last couple minutes is actually that if you're looking for an opportunity to practice your presentation skills, you just need to go get in trouble with the law. I'm not sure that's completely congruent with the creating change, not stress part. Yeah. One other thought I had was that, and you'll probably like this, you mentioned that you're addicted to Toastmasters. One of my mentors in the health and wellness industry is a man by the name of Paul Check, and his definition of addiction, or what's not an addiction, he says that it's only an addiction if you want to quit and can't. So do you want to quit Toastmasters? No. Then you're not addicted. According to Paul Check. All right. Let's hear one more. What would one more person like to share what they've picked up so far? What's your drug of choice?
Secret. Hi, my name's Ellie, and I'm not a Toastmaster. I'm just getting it through osmosis from my Toast Monster mother. I'm just kidding, Mama. And I really loved what you said about being where you're celebrated, not tolerated, because being accepted and having good rapport with a group of people you're with is so important. And a community helps bring you to your goal. And I am really fortunate to have made that happen with my partner John, and we have very similar goals, and that's why I'm going to have a way better second marriage.
Sometimes when you look at these 5 keys, you're going to look at them and you realize how many of them are already on side. Like what you just talked about, you're creating an environment that supports you in your goals. So maybe you look at the checklist and go, I don't really see anything that's really out of alignment. That offers up an opportunity for you to just feel grateful for everything that is on your side, and just recognize if you keep applying that action, that change you want is going to come. It isn't always about looking for what's wrong, it's recognizing what's right. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. All right. So far, we have your environments, your actions express priorities, and then having the skill or ability or hiring or acquiring it. Our 4th key for creating change, not stress. Pretty powerful. This can make the difference of you completely shooting yourself in the foot before you even get going. Do you believe in the power of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Remember earlier I said, are you able to recognize the turkeys in your life? My follow-up question is, do you have the ability to recognize when sometimes it's you who's being the turkey? You ever catch yourself saying things that don't really serve you? a great thing you can do, it's awesome, there's people in here in this room that know each other, because you can take these tools and you and your friend both learn them, because next week, you know, it sounds great while you're here, but next week the novelty's worn off and you get into a stressful situation and you start to forget some of the things that you've learned. But if you've got a neighbor, a friend, someone that you connect with, and they can remind you in those high stress moments. I am completely blessed that I've got that person in my life, my wife, Elaine. We've been together for more than half of my life. That's pretty cool. Now, she's very tolerant, and it's very hard for me to get under her skin, but I finally found a way. We got together when I was 18 and a half, and on my 37th birthday, I informed her, I said, listen, honey, it's an exciting day. We've been together for half my life. And she said, right on, we have. And I said, that means, officially, I'm as much your fault as my mother's. It was so, like, you could see that you really got under her skin. But I only said it a few times. But anyway, she's that person for me. So sometimes when you're saying things that are self-defeating, I will ask people a question. Like if I catch you saying something like, oh, I'm horrible at public speaking, and I will ask you, like, would you ever say that, Laura?
I could be, but I'll try not to.
Okay. So if she was to say that to me, I would say, okay, is that what you want your truth to be? Yeah. Then I would encourage you to start saying a new truth. Does that make sense? When you've got that person in your life like I do, and sometimes I get caught up in negative, I'm home and I'm cranky and I'm both knocked about something, and my wife will look at me and she'll go, is that what you want your truth to be? So there you go, she's not here today. When you go talk to her, that's exactly what she sounds like. To me, in that moment, that's what she sounds like. But if that's not what you want your truth to be, to start saying new things. Now, there's some negative programming beliefs that people have in our society. They're so common that I bet you if I start them, you can finish them. You ready for this? When it rains,
Of course.
if it weren't for bad luck,
I have no luck at all.
there's
I
another
have
one.
no luck at all.
Thank God it's
Friday.
Friday. What's wrong with that one? What's wrong with someone expressing gratitude for Friday? Yeah. Is that just a creative way of them pointing out that the other 4 days of the week really stink?
Yeah.
Thank God it's Friday. So do you want to have some fun? Next week, you guys want to have some fun? You only got to wait 2 days to start. Two-step process to have some fun. Step number 1, I want you to friend me on Facebook. That step's only so I can watch and enjoy you taking step 2. Step 2 is first thing Monday morning, crack of dawn, I want you to make your Facebook post that says, thank God it's Monday. Alright? Tuesday, first thing in the morning, thank God it's Tuesday. Wednesday, thank God it's Wednesday. You guys catch on quick. I promise you, if you have not heard from the turkeys in your life before Wednesday, you will that day. I said, Laura, what is wrong with you? Why would you be grateful for a Wednesday? Seriously. You must be on vacation. Why else would a person possibly be grateful for a Wednesday? Some people will get caught up, and when I ask the question, is that what you want your truth to be? And they'll say, but that is the truth. So there are some people that will say, you take that, and some people will call it an ant. It's an automatic negative thought. Ants. And the best way to get rid of an ant is to squash it by replacing it with its polar opposite. So I'm not projecting this onto you, but if Laura said, I'm terrible at public speaking, what would be at the other end of the spectrum? I'm the greatest public speaker that's ever walked the face of the earth.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Yeah. Now that is powerful, but if you don't believe it, if it is too far away from where you are right now, it will create something, big fancy word, are you ready for it? Cognitive dissonance. You're lying to yourself. Do you trust people that lie to you every day? I don't. So here's my challenge. How can you create and start telling yourself the most positive version of the truth? Reframe. The most positive version of the truth that you can tell yourself. So saying, I am the world's greatest speaker in the world. I'm the Department of Redundancy Department. The world's greatest speaker in the world. If that feels too far away from the truth, what's something that is true and positive?
I'm getting better.
Yeah, let's crank that up another notch. I am enjoying the process of consistently improving my communication skills. Does that feel like the truth?
Yeah.
Does it feel good? Does it feel better than I'm a terrible public speaker?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's take another example. You ever talk to somebody, I hate my job. Some of those people that hate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they even hate Friday up to about 4 p.m. I hate my job. Well, what's the most positive version of the truth you can tell yourself? Some people say, oh, just start walking around saying, I love my job, I love my job. But if that's not true, can you say, I love parts of my job? There are aspects of my job. There's that one person at my job that I enjoy hanging out with. If even that's not true, maybe you should try this one. I'm enjoying the process of finding a new job. I'm enjoying the daily motivation to put resumes in. But what is the most positive version of the truth that you can tell yourself? What we're digging into right now is the key that is called beliefs and values. What are your beliefs and values? When I look back, there was a belief and value that got ingrained in me from a very young age. My older brother is 6 years older than me. I'm the baby of the family. And I grew up with him saying things like, you know what, work is not supposed to be fun. If it was fun, why would anybody pay you to do it? If you're not covered in mud and hate the day by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, you don't deserve a paycheck. Now I'm exaggerating, but that was the energy behind what he was saying. And unfortunately, I allowed myself to take this on as a belief. So I went from one job that I hated to another job that I hated. And then I found a job that wasn't too bad, but because my belief was work's not supposed to be fun, I then was able to very creatively find ways to not like that job either. In order to find work that I enjoy and absolutely love doing, I needed to shift the belief and believe that work is able to be fun. I have a new belief that kind of gets me in trouble sometimes, but if it's not fun, I won't do it. That does get me in trouble because there's things like paperwork that need to be done, and that belief kind of blocks me a little bit. But one of the things, somebody asked what NLP was, and neuro-linguistic programming. Are you familiar with neuro-linguistic programming?
No.
Yes?
Yeah.
No.
A lot of people aren't. I usually get about 5% of people have heard of it. Basically is, if you think of an iceberg, the 10% that's above the surface is your conscious mind. The 90% underneath is your subconscious mind, where a lot of beliefs, like really deep-rooted beliefs, sit and lie. Neuro-linguistic programming is a set of tools that allows you to rewrite some of that stuff that's under the surface. Now, your name? Pauline. Pauline, if she came to me and said, you know what, Jeremy, I'm not a toast monster, I am a chocolate monster. And I can't stop eating chocolate. If we wanted to, Pauline, we could take you through an exercise that had you feel the same way about chocolate as you do about liver and onions. And I'm just pulling that out of the air. Just something you absolutely hate to eat. It could be the last food on earth you can starve before you'd eat it. So some people say, why would you ever do that? Why would you not want to eat chocolate? It's completely up to you whether we would do that or not. The next question I get when people understand neuro-linguistic programming, they go, you're not messing with my mind right now, are you?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Not with my mind.
Oh.
Everybody's mind.
Oh, I like that. It's fun. But honestly, my beliefs and values my ethics are in place well enough that I wouldn't do that. But the other part of it is, my training isn't in depth enough that I could do that without your knowledge. Pauline, you would be very conscious and aware of everything we did in order to create that change, and you would need to reinforce it. If we took a half an hour and did that now, and you walked out the door, chocolate bars wouldn't taste quite as good, but you could override it and go back to quite enjoying your Hershey's. If you wanted that to stick, there'd be homework that you'd need to do to reinforce that, but you can rewrite that programming if you feel that it doesn't serve you. So what I've done in the past is I've worked with clients one-on-one to create for them what's called a guided relaxation audio. And basically it's very, very specific to their goals. It's got their name, their goals, it's their vernacular, like the verbiage that they would use, not what I would use, the beliefs and values, the things that they want to create, not what I want to create for them, all about their goals. And I would create this. But what I found is I worked with people that had weight loss goals, with career goals, with speaking goals, over and over and over again. The underlying thing that people most wanted to walk away with was more confidence. That's why I created that CD that they was talking about, Unleash Your Confidence. I've sold well over 300 of them, and it's pretty fascinating things that people come back with and what they apply it for. One lady said, Jeremy, I'm going into this conflict at work tomorrow. I've been listening to your CD all week, and I'm walking in feeling confident that this is going to be okay. So she used that to help her build up her confidence for that challenging situation. Now, people will ask me something, I think it's a strange question, but people do ask me, Jeremy, do you ever use that for yourself? I said, use it? Absolutely. I mean, I love this stuff, and I use it for myself. And my favorite example, there's going to be a couple people in the room that know the ending of the story. Please don't ruin it for everyone. Is that okay? All right. It was shortly after I joined Toastmasters, somebody came to me and said, Jeremy, did you realize that there is a world championship of public speaking? I said, wow, I didn't know. So then they explained it to me. They said, are you going to go for it? I said, am I going to go for it? Not only am I going to go for it, I'm going to win. I'm going after the world championship of public speaking. Because when I create those CDs for people, there's 3 questions I like to boil down to. The first one is, what do you want to create? That's the first question. And these would be great questions for you to answer for yourself. What is that change that I want to create? The next question is, what beliefs do I need to have about myself? This is a 2-part question. Part 1, what beliefs do I need to have about myself? Part 2 is, what beliefs about myself do I need to shed and release and move away from? And then the third question calls back to key number 2, and that is, what actions do I need to take in order to create that? So there I sit with this question, do I want to go after the world championship? I said, yeah, because I know what I want, I've got the technology to work on my beliefs, and I'm going to take the action. So that year I entered into the World Championship of Public Speaking at Toastmasters, and at the club level, there were 4 participants that day. We all gave our speeches, sat back and waited for the results. When there's 4 people, they announced the top 2. So they announced number 2, and they announced number 1, who would move on to compete at the area. Moving on to compete at the area level from our club, they announced Jeremy Tracey. Have you ever had some positive reinforcement that just boosts your confidence and kicks you up to another level? Yeah. So here I am. I'm at home saying to my kids, Dad's going to the World Championship of Public Speaking. It was in California that year. It was saying, Dad's going to California. At our house, it actually became nicknamed. It became nicknamed the main event. Dad's going, I mean, the boys were little at the time. Dad's going to the main event, so that's pretty cool. So I go to the next level, the area level. There were 5 speakers. So they announced the top 3. They announced 3rd. They announced 2nd. First place going on to compete at division level, Jeremy Tracey. This is awesome. I believe takes another huge leap upward. Just a couple more levels and then I'm off to the World Championship. By this point, my kids are going to school telling people, Dad's going to California. He's going to the main event. So my wife, as always, she likes to go to the competitions and support me. So there she is. I step up at division level, 6 speakers. I walk on the stage with confidence, and I nail my speech, sit down with my wife to wait for the results. They list off the top 3. They announced 3rd. They announced 2nd. I turned to my wife and I said, honey, I feel good. First place going on to compete at district level, Gregory C.N. Smith. Turned to my wife and I said, honey, I don't feel so good. Now, have you ever heard the expression that when you get knocked off the horse, you should just jump right back on? Yeah, that's exactly what I did, I'm proud to tell you. That same night, I delivered a very passionate 25-minute speech to an audience of 1 on our drive home. Just exactly how I felt about the results. Partway between Kitchener and Elmira, there's a roundabout. We're slow down to go through the roundabout. You have the door open at 1 foot. As always, Elaine is very patient. She lets me blow off some steam. I finally took a breath as we're driving just about home. And she says, Jeremy, that's not what you're meant to be doing. So what do you mean it's not what I'm meant to be doing? I said, I knew what I wanted to create. I had the beliefs. I took massive action. Where are my results? She says, it's not what you're meant to be doing. I said, well, that's fine. But why didn't I place 2nd or 3rd? We're assuming I placed 4th. There's 6 people, they announced the top 3. If you don't hear your name, you placed 4th. That's what you have to believe, right? It's the most positive version of the truth. So why didn't I place 2nd or 3rd? She goes, you know what, Jeremy, you're pretty thick sometimes. God knew he needed to whack you between the eyes to get your attention. And then she said something that I really needed to hear. She said, there must be something better waiting. And what kind of a belief would that be to have piloting your ship? If you were met with disappointment, came up a little bit short, whether that was a job opportunity, or a promotion, or a speaking contest, whatever it was, if you were met with disappointment, but to walk through life with that belief that there must be something better waiting, what would that do? I tell you, my wife had to reinforce that a couple times over the next few days. I'd start my speech again, and she'd say, there must be something better waiting. So eventually it sunk in, and that became, there must be something better waiting. It was about 2 months later, I got a call from my friend Paul Brown from Australia. Good day, mate. This is Paul Brown calling from Face to Face Member Retention. How would you like to come to New Zealand for 3 weeks, all expenses paid, and help me train up some clubs? What do you think I said? Before that, what do you think I said? I said, honey, can I go? I'm ambitious, but I'm not silly. I got to listen. So on the plane, all expenses paid. I spent 17 days in Auckland, New Zealand, working side by side with an incredible speaker and mentor from the fitness industry, having him cut me loose for 1, 2, 3 hours at a time, then pull me aside afterwards and say, here's what you did well, here's what you need to work on. Do you think that might have been the something better waiting? Did I mention if I had gone to California, the main event, what I thought I wanted, I'd have stood on stage for 7 minutes. But instead, I spent 3 weeks in Auckland, New Zealand. It's beautiful there. So whatever your main event is, maybe it's not the World Championship of Public Speaking. Maybe it's an opportunity. Maybe it's something that happens every day and it doesn't go your way. But if you can hold on to that belief that there must be something better waiting and see what happens. It's just a very positive way. I remember the next year I went into the contest, I don't even remember what level, I'm sure I placed 4th or something, but on the drive home my wife says, where are you going this year? So that was a pretty cool belief to have piloting the ship. So looking at your beliefs and what are the things that you say to yourself, and what are the things you believe, and are there some of those that need to be worked on in order for you to support yourself by telling yourself the most positive version of the truth possible. So far, we've talked about 4 logic levels: environment, actions, skills and abilities, beliefs. Would you believe there's something even more powerful than beliefs? Any guesses what it is?
Thinking.
Thinking? Okay. I put that on the same level as beliefs, but you're not wrong. Yeah. What we're looking for with this one, and it is so deeply ingrained, it goes even deeper than beliefs. That is your identity. What do you believe about yourself? Who are you? And that becomes deeply ingrained. I got to watch this in action with my dad. My dad, he was a farmer for 28 years in Nova Scotia. He farmed pigs. 26 of those years were great. The last 2 were horrible. Lost his farm, lost his house, lost his work. Here was the challenge. Being a farmer, it wasn't what he did, it was what he was. So at 61, 62 years old, we watched him flounder, trying different careers, not working well, because he was still running with this belief, I'm a farmer, and he's trying to put on a suit and tie and go in for job interviews, and we're wondering why things aren't going well. It's a very deeply ingrained belief about his identity that was running the show. Now, very happy to say, he shifted that, and this is something, I mean, this is total judgment on my part, it's not something him and I sat down and talked about, but from my perspective, he shifted his identity. Now, he will tell you, I'm an entrepreneur. At 63 years old, he bought a business and started another one. He's doing great because he managed to shift his identity of what he believed that he was. So a couple more examples. I have a friend named Jose in Toronto, and he is what's called a holistic lifestyle coach. He does personal training, but he also coaches people on their lifestyle choices. And him and I were chatting one day. He was working with a new client. He said, Jeremy, this client is so awesome. You know how we talk to people about food journaling? There's great value in writing down what you're eating, right? And so yeah, she took it a step further. She took it a step further, and she made a public blog. It's online, You should check it out. So there's the public accountability. I said, hey, that sounds pretty cool. So we're still on the phone. I pulled it up in front of my computer. I took one look at it. I said, Jose, she's going to fail. I said, what do you mean? I said, one of two things is going to happen. She's either going to fail, or she's going to see some success and end up right back where she started. You know what her blog was called? It's called Chubby Chick Trying to Get Skinny. Don't even get me started on the word trying. It was her identity that she was a chubby chick. That was something she believed on a very deep level. We cannot move towards something that we don't like or something that we don't believe is true about ourselves. One of the most awful things I hear from people that are carrying more weight than they'd like to is when they talk down on someone who's fit. They call them cardio bunnies or skinny, what's skinny stuff? It's not a B word. Skinny. I can't talk like that. Skinny buggers, I think that's what it is. But if they talk like that on a deep level, your subconscious is not going to allow you to become something that you hate. Same thing with finances. Look at those rich buggers. They must have, I bet you he sells dope. How else could he's selling marijuana? And not the legal kind either. How else could someone be successful? But if that's something that we hate, and then we wonder why we can't move toward it. But that deep-rooted belief and identity about who we are. Probably my favorite story, it was the gentleman who taught our neuro-linguistic programming course. He told a fantastic story about someone who had very deep-rooted beliefs that he needed to jar them a little bit. What he said was a little bit controversial, so bear with me, but it illustrates a point. He was running a seminar specifically on using NLP techniques to help people quit smoking. So he said, there I am, said I'm working away, taking registration in the morning. He said I had my head down, working away, and all of a sudden, it was down Texas, I believe. He said, all of a sudden I hear this voice that says, so you're the fella that's going to help me quit smoking, are you? And he says, I look up to see this monster of a man. He says, I see a Marlboro belt buckle, a Marlboro t-shirt, Marlboro racing jacket, and a Marlboro cap. This guy was the Marlboro man. So all day, every chance he had, I'm a cowboy. And it's this deep-rooted belief in what that meant to him. It was very deep-rooted. So Will Horton's the guy's name, and who was teaching the course. And he said, no, I needed to find an opportunity to just say something to jar this guy. So one too many times the guy proclaimed, I'm a cowboy. So finally Will looks at him and says, you mean like a Brokeback Mountain cowboy? And he said, you ever see a dog when it tips its head? Because he's kind of that's the look he got from this guy, but it just jarred what that meant to him. I'd like to share one more example, but I'll warn you, some people don't love this one. Raise your hand if you're a mother. Thank you. World's greatest job. Hands down, you're fantastic. There is a challenge with it. Having the identity of being a mother is great. My question is, what does that mean to you? Does being a mother mean that, I mothered these kids and I look after them, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera? Or does it mean to you that, I had better do everything for everyone else, and once everyone else is taken care of, and I know that nothing else needs to be done for them, then maybe, just maybe, take a little bit of time for myself. Is that, I see some arms folding, is that...
Mentoring.
What's that?
A mothership mentor.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
Show them, do it by showing them.
Yeah, absolutely, I love that. I love the identity of a mother. I challenge people to sit down with pen and paper and say, what does that mean to me? And it's the same thing for fathers. What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be a mother? If what you write down feels right for you, and it's okay with the direction you want to take, 2 huge thumbs up. But if there's a way that you can shift that to better support your goals, because if you've got the goal that you want to take time to go to the gym, or you want to take time to go back to school, but you've got this deep-rooted identity that says, I'm not going to be able to start that till at least 1:30 in the morning after everything else is done, your chances of successfully reaching that goal are going to be a little more challenging. So some optional homework, pen to paper, what would you say your identity is, and what does that mean to you? And does it support your goals, or does it get in the way? Making sense? All right. ruffled some feathers on that one. We need to have some fun. You've been sitting for a bit. We've been talking about a lot of different changes. Has it been stressful to talk about these changes? All right. Yes?
Of course it
In
is.
an honest voice.
It's always stressful.
It's always stressful to create change.
Yes, if you really want to create change, before you created it, it is stressful.
I have a question for you. Is that what you want your truth to be? Oh, sorry, I should have put the voice on. Is that what you want your truth to be? All right, we gotta liven up. Let's have some fun. If you've seen this before, please don't spoil it. But I want you to do something. I want everyone to stand up and grab a partner. And don't make me define grab. So grab a partner.
Hey, that's what we can do.
Okay. If there are 3 of you together, that's fine. That's fine. So either 2 or 3 people together. Now here's your rules. I want you to turn back to back. You don't need to be touching each other, but I want you to not be able to see each other. Okay? So you can't see each other, and I'm going to give you 60 seconds. From the time I say go, you've got very strict, specific instructions I need you to accomplish within the 60-second mark. So when I say go, I want you to change 12 things about your appearance. Any 12 things about your appearance you'd like to change, go.
Can we speak it out loud?
Okay, whoa, stop. I see more folded arms, people aren't appreciating. That wasn't fair. That was too much. Let's change the same idea, change things, but I only want you to change any 2 things about your appearance. Change any 2 things about your appearance. Flip your glasses upside down, curl your hair the other way, that's what I would do. 60 seconds to change 2 things about your appearance. And once you've done that, turn back to your partner or partners and see if you can spot what each other did. Turn back to back again. Now everybody understands how this goes. Turn back to back again. Just change one more thing about your appearance. Just change one more thing. Yeah. Change one more thing. Try to keep your clothes on. It's a family show. Alright, that shouldn't take very long. Now turn back and face your partner one more time. See if you can spot that change. Okay, grab a seat. Everybody has their clothes back on? Good. Alright. If you've seen this before, don't show off and shout out the answer. If you haven't seen it before, I'd like you to guess, or tell me, what was the purpose of that activity? Paying attention, observing? Observing? Creativity? Yeah? Fun? Yeah? Alright. They're not wrong, but they're not the answer I'm looking for. Good try though. Alright. How did you feel when I asked you to change any 12 things about your appearance? It's overwhelming. Yeah. That means you're human. How did you feel when I said, okay, you know what, this is too much, change 2 things about your appearance? How'd that feel? A little more manageable? And then I said, change one more thing. Is that not too bad? We could have done this, it wouldn't have been a good investment of time, but I could have had you turn back to back one more time until we built up to 12 changes, and you could have done it one at a time. Here's your take-home message, and I learned this from one of my speaking coaches and mentors, Craig Ballantyne, the 1999 world champion of public speaking. Take-home message is this: change small, change often. Statistically, I believe I heard this from Tony Robbins, that by January 17th, 93% of people have given up on their New Year's resolutions. Because they do what's affectionately known as the pump up and fizzle out. If you try to change too much too fast, it creates stress and change won't happen. But if instead you take the approach of change small, change often, you let yourself adjust to those two small changes, and then you add just one more. And then you add just one more, and add just one more. Before you know it, you'll have created 12 small positive changes that add up to huge results. And it creates a lot less stress. So you're going to go home today with, oh, I got to change all these things about my environment. I got to throw out the chips. I got to throw out the husband. Start with the chips. Change small, change often, and you're going to have yourself set up for a lot more success. All right? So what we're going to do is just got a little bit of time left. One more time, I want you to turn to your neighbors and another 60-second chat. You're going to bring it back in. What are the two small changes that you're going to apply? And remember, there's people here that know you. They might check in on you next week. But what are two small changes you're going to apply? And when we bring it back in, I'd like to share a bonus key. Do you want a bonus key? Is that okay? Yeah. I'm going to share a bonus key for creating change. 60 seconds, talk to your neighbor, go. Clap your hands 3 times if you can hear my voice. Excellent. All right, we're going to create change, but we're going to do it quick. What are your 2 changes you want to make?
Try harder.
Try harder? What does that mean?
Just work harder to attain your goals.
Okay.
Make time for yourself.
When I encourage people to, okay, make time for myself. There, now we're getting, okay. Can we get more specific?
Leave the work and do what you really have to do for yourself.
I encourage people to have something that if at the end of the week or the end of the month they can look back and clearly say, yes, I did it, or not so much. So it's on Friday afternoons, I will leave no later than 4:30. I'm going to take a half an hour, lock the world outside, read a book, something that, I'm not trying to tell you what it is, but something that's very, very specific and measurable and agreed upon and realistic and time frame oriented, so something like that. And then you can say, yes, I did it, or no, I didn't. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I love the idea. I just feel you'll have a lot better chance for success when you get more specific and clear on exactly what that means.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. And any more? Yeah.
I'm going to personally call every area governor, all 5 area governors, before they have their area contest. Find out how they feel about it. What's driving them, like just a stress, driving them crazy, whatever. And what they did, what they feel good about. And then after, we'll go over it again, where maybe it wasn't so stressful, maybe it shouldn't have been, and we can do that after the contests are over.
Yeah.
Each one, and maybe what did they learn from it?
Yeah.
And that's something measurable.
Excellent.
Have again in the spring.
Yeah. And it's something that when the contest rolls around, you can say to yourself, yes, I called all 5 of them, or no, I didn't. And it's something that's very clear and measurable. Excellent. Very good. Is there any area governors in the room that will tell me if she did it or not? All right. So Just before Jim speaks, I just wanted to say when we did the activity, I don't think everybody saw this, but the change that he made when his back was turned and he turned back to his partner, I looked over, he actually had a joint hanging out of his mouth. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
What I'd like to do is remove all, or as much of the clutter in my life as I can. Not only physical clutter, but stuff in here. Stuff that is what I would have to say is redundant.
Yeah. Can you find a way to make that specific and measurable?
Absolutely, and that's the way that you said, just a little bit at a time. Cleaning up that closet, moving to the garage, moving to the basement, and then the things in our life that we do in redundant. Do I really have to do this thing in the morning before I go to work? And could I replace it with something else, like exercise, or an actual plan for my day?
I like it. Yeah, there you go, something specific and measurable. I'd also encourage you to break it down to something that's so small you can't not do it. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's how those small changes. Take on more if you want to, but if sometimes people are struggling with willpower, to have something that's so small they can't not do it, and it strengthens that willpower muscle.
Putting my keys in the same place every day?
Speaking of willpower and creating change, a lot of times comes down to willpower. If you like audiobooks or reading books, either one, fantastic book written by Kelly McGonigal called The Willpower Instinct. Absolutely fascinating. She's a university professor who basically ran her own labs with her students, sending them out to try different willpower techniques, and they come back and report what worked in the real world and what didn't. Fantastic material. It's about a 7-hour audiobook, but yeah, when you drive to like Goderich, Delmira, and back and forth, it's something good to put into your mind for sure. All right. Want to have one more? The change that someone's going to create.
I am going to speak for Joyce.
Does Joyce want you to speak for her?
I don't know, I'm going to do it anyway.
All right. Better to beg forgiveness than ask permission.
That's always the way. Joyce said, when I asked her, she said she wanted to change her actions, but she didn't use the word action. Activities. And I says, oh, you're going to join Toastmasters? And she says, no, not right away.
You're down?
Well, I mean, I thought she would join. Anyway, she did, but she said no, she was going to try to change something else. I'll let her tell you.
So you really threw her under the bus. Friends like you, she doesn't need enemies, right? If you'd like to change your environment and move is there something you'd like to share?
Yes, I'm going to take hold of my ability to procrastinate and wait.
You're going to take hold of your procrastination.
My tendency
Yeah.
to procrastinate, and I'm going to
Do you believe that you have a tendency to procrastinate?
yeah.
Does that belief serve you? What's the opposite of procrastination? Activity. Okay. So you're going to work on strengthening your muscle of taking action quickly. Okay. It's referring it back to the fitness world or health and wellness world. When people focus on wanting to lose weight, they're focusing on what they want to lose rather than what they want to move toward. I encourage people to focus on what they want to move toward. So you don't want to focus on the procrastination. I'd encourage you to focus on the get to itness. I just created a word there, I think. Yeah. Is there a word of the day? There's officially a word of the day. I'm the grammarian too. Get to itness. Get her done. Get her done. No presentation is complete without quoting Larry the Cable Guy at least once. I'm just realizing that I meant to give away a gift to someone. This is the book that I wrote a chapter in with my 3 boys. And the foreword was written by Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup for the Soul. You heard of Jack Canfield?
Yes.
Book written specifically about inspiring youth. Each chapter is a parent-child collaborative writing. Mine just happens to be a parent and 3-child collaborative writing. And there might be mention of our unicycling habit in here too, by the way. But we write about the ripple effect and how the choices we make ripple out to the people around us. So I'd like to share with you just one quote out of our book, and then I'm going to give it away. I haven't decided to who yet. Here it is. Really ties in well to today. When you make positive, empowering choices in your life, it will absolutely ripple out to the next generation, to your friends, and likely to people you don't even know. How true is that? People we don't even realize, and our actions are rippling out and impacting those people. So I've got one to give away. Who wants it? Seriously, who wants it? Who really wants it?
I do! I'll read it while falling off my unicycle.
That's pretty good.
I believe you. I really liked it.
Who wants it?
Okay.
Sandra just applied key number 2, taking action. Yeah. Sometimes when you want things, you just have to take action. You just have to walk up and take what you want. I'm not suggesting you steal from people, but alright, real quick, bonus level. You want a bonus key?
Yes.
Something that's even more powerful. The amazing thing about this, it's even more powerful than all 5 that we put together, because when this one drops into place, every other key will just automatically fall in line. That is, when you find yourself connected to a higher purpose. When you are connected to a higher purpose, it will shift your identity, it will shift your beliefs and your values, your skills. If you don't have it, you will be so driven to go out and hire and acquire whatever you've got to do because you're connected to that higher purpose. It will change your behaviors, absolutely, and it will impact your environment because you won't allow stuff into your environment that disrupts that higher purpose. Now, when some people think higher purpose, all they think about is the Lord, our Creator, whatever word you want to put on that. That's a fantastic higher purpose, but it's not exclusive to that. If you're sitting there and that's not where your values are, you don't need to say, okay, this key doesn't apply to me. I know people that are wickedly successful, and a big part of it is because they become connected with a higher purpose. One that I had the blessing and opportunity to be exposed to earlier this year. I'm involved with a company called Young Living Essential Oils. I drove to Rhode Island. I spent 12 hours in a car with 3 friends, good old road trip. And we listened to Gary Young, the founder of this company, speak for an entire day. And to hear him talk, he's been on a lifelong mission to create the highest quality essential oils known to man. He told a story about, he was in the woods, he was hiking with his family, absolutely loves being in nature, getting back in touch with nature, is what these oils are all about. He fell 37 feet on a cliff, broke his back. He's funny, 65 years old, scared to death of his wife. He crawled back to a hot spring where they were hanging out, and he climbed in, and somebody's sitting there looking, he's covered in mud, he's covered in blood, and he looked at him and said, "Don't you dare tell Mary." He got out of the woods, he went back to work. He's so driven with a broken back, he got back to work. A couple days later, his wife's watching him, she says, "Gary, what is wrong?" He wasn't walking right. So finally, she drug him against his will in to have these x-rays. That's when they found out his back was broken. The surgeon called and said, "Mary, where's Gary?" She said, "He's out in the field." The doctor said, "That's not possible. We need to put him in a body cast for 8 months." And Gary said, "No, not happening." That was a little over a year ago, and I watched him this spring, 65 years old, springing up and down the stairs to give out prizes to people, not even out of breath. The man is so driven, so tapped in to a higher purpose. That's not really something you're going to sit down with pen and paper and go, I wonder what my higher purpose should be. It's not something that's going to drop in, but if you keep an open mind to it and see what that could be for you, it will absolutely impact positively your identity, your beliefs and values, your skills and abilities, your behaviors, and your actions. And you will find yourself creating change more easily and naturally, and having positive ripples go out everywhere you go. Have fun creating positive ripples.